well, I'm going to start. Hey, good morning. Am I on? Okay. Good morning. If I didn't meet you last night, my name's Diane Linnehan, and I'm the Senior Director of Operations of the Phelan-McDermid Syndrome Foundation. And I'm also mom to 3 adult children. My oldest, Courtney, is 34, and she was diagnosed with Phelan-McDermid Syndrome at age 21. My boys, my youngest is getting married this year, and the middle child is, he's in his residency now, so doing well. And I became a grandma 2 months ago, so shout out to Rose. Yeah, thank you. I'm also the conference co-chair, and unfortunately, my co-chair, Ronni Blumenthal, our CEO, unfortunately had to cancel her trip last minute because of an emergency health issue with her dad. And so we're wishing her dad well, and she is watching, and she will be with us by video at some points during the conference. She asked that I share that she is heartbroken not to be here, and she sends her love, respect, and gratitude to all of you. And personally, I just feel so privileged to be able to welcome you here. And I understand, especially for families, what it took for you to get here. And so I'm thankful that you were able to come. I wish you all had the same view that I have right now, because when I look over, I'm just overwhelmed at the sea of people, the families, our researchers, our speakers. It really is overwhelming. This is our first conference since 2018, and it's our 22nd year since our first conference. So those are two things we're celebrating. So if you look around, look at people next to you, hopefully you'll meet someone who will help you on your journey, or in telling your own story to someone else, you may help another family. I just wanted to say, looking at the numbers of attendance for this conference, it's just incredible. We have 718 people who are registered for the conference in person. We have 168 virtual attendees, and that's 886 people who are participating this year, and that's just incredible. We have 127 individuals diagnosed with Phelan-McDermid syndrome here with us today, which is just incredible. Yeah. Okay, so we're represented by 10 countries outside the U.S. and 40 states within the U.S. And I just want to take a moment and just remind us that we are all here participating in the largest gathering of individuals with Phelan-McDermid syndrome, and those people who love them and support them and dedicate their careers to them in the world of all time. So thank you for being here. And I do want to, we're a real community, and we share the joys and life, and you're with people who understand. And with that, I just want to invite you all to just take a moment and join me in a quiet moment of remembrance for those that we have loved and lost. Thank you. I also now want to tell you, you'll see the theme of our conference this year. You'll see Connect, Care, and Cure. You'll notice on your conference guide and on signage, you'll notice that we've coordinated the colors of the three. These are the pillars of our strategic plan. The organization has spent a great deal of time with the board and the staff creating a strategic plan for the next 3 years, and these are the pillars of the work that we do. And I just wanted to tell you just a little bit. I won't read this whole slide, but when we say connect, that includes the way that we support families, connect families with resources. We have new programs. We have our caregiver support program. We have our 100 Days program. We also do referrals out to genetic counselors and to neuropsychiatric support, and that leads us into the care piece. And care is new for us, a new focus. We've always advocated, but we want to focus on medical care and getting the best medical care, the best diagnosis for everybody, no matter where you live. And so part of, including our referral processes, we participate, we're partners in development of the clinical consensus guidelines. We continually work with our medical advisory board to be able to present to them the patient experience when there are new developments in care for our loved ones. And CURE is basically research, and we've really spent a lot of time driving research breakthroughs. I guess the ICD code might fit under care and CURE, but that's a big step for us that we now have an ICD code, and in the medical system they're collecting information on our family members as they receive medical care. And as I said, we do fund research and we partner, and you'll see some of our partners today, and you'll hear from our researchers that we're continually in communication with, and again, always communicating the patient experience in research as well, and trying to drive that forward. So when you look at your guide, you'll see the green, the red, and the blue, and you can tell what the focus of any of the sessions are about. I have now some housekeeping. I just want to go through health and safety. We do, if you're not feeling well, I don't know where Kelsey is, if she's here. I wanted her. Okay, so Kelsey's in the back. She's our go-to person. If you're not feeling well, you can text her. She can make an arrangement to get a test. Yeah, or call or text, I don't know, but you can contact her. We have COVID tests if you need them. We have masks if you need them. We do have some people in the in our group who are immunocompromised. So to see people with masks, just ask them if they're comfortable, how close you can get to them. And you have, I think we got our hand sanitizer. Only half of it came, so we were packing bags. All sorts of things happen in the background that hopefully you won't notice, but we did get those into your bag. Dinner tonight, you'll notice I took off my badge. Clink. On the back of your badge, we have so many people, and we wanted to space out the rooms. We have assignments for rooms. So you'll either have Lakes, which is here, or Minnetonka, which is across the hallway. Same food, same program, everything's the same, just a different room. So please go to your assigned room. If you've told us that you have any dietary restrictions, you'll see a brightly colored card in the back of your badge. And what we ask you to do is when you go to dinner, take out that card, put it in front of you, and so that the servers will know that you have a special dietary meal coming. Scientific Summit, this is by invite. The scientists, we moved it, so if you look at your guide, we moved it to the Parkview room, which is just down the hallway, down to the first floor. There's a map, you can ask it information. This is for scientists. We're just meeting in a different room, same time. And we do have an adult changing table if everyone needs it. It is in one of the hotel rooms, and it's room 312. And the key is at the upstairs daycare. Nokmas daycare, and also at the information desk. So if you need that, ask for the key. We have 3 people taking video and photos for us today. You saw it, you met Kelsey. We also have Devin Wilbur. She's a mom, and a rep for us. And Rick Guidotti, our keynote speaker. And so you'll hear a lot about him later. He's going to come up, but he will also be taking fabulous pictures of our population. One thing that I want to note is, in emergency, dial 911. So instead, if something happens, don't look for people. Dial first and then look, because there is a police station. I mean, we're at the Mall of America, and it's it's quite busy out there, but they have their own police station. So if something happens, hopefully not 911. Okay, so now what I wanted to do is play a video, from our sponsor, Neuren, and this is John Pilcher, CEO of Neuren Pharmaceuticals, and he's wanted to send us a message.
Hello everyone, my name's John Pilcher. I'm the CEO of Neuren Pharmaceuticals. I'm speaking to you from the other side of the world in Australia, so I'm very sorry that I can't be there with you in person, but several of my colleagues are there. Perhaps they can identify themselves with a wave, and I very much hope that you'll get a chance to chat with Liza and the team during the conference. Please do go and say hello if you have the time. So I'm very pleased and proud that Neuren is the presenting sponsor of the conference. And we are all very excited to be on the journey that we are on, trying to develop a first approved treatment for Phelan-McDermid syndrome. Some of you may be aware that Neuren has previously been on a similar journey in Rett syndrome. And that means that we are acutely aware of the pivotal role that families played on that journey and the role that you are already playing and will continue to play on this journey. And we are very much looking forward to continuing to work with you all as we progress the remaining development of NNZ-2591. So the Foundation has put together an excellent agenda for the conference covering a wide range of topics. So I'm sure that you are all going to get a lot out of the conference. But I also understand that it's the first time you've been able to meet in person since 2018, I believe. And therefore, above all, I just hope that you have a really good time together over the next few days. And finally, I just send very best wishes to you all from the entire Neuren team.
Thank you. Okay, so I just have now a few acknowledgements, and I think two of the people I want to acknowledge may not be in the room, but I'm going to do it anyway, and then I will catch up with them. There's two. We had a great conference planning team this year. We've been spending about a year planning for this day, for these days, so that we can all get together and have something for everyone. Had a great team, but I want to acknowledge two of my volunteers on the team. And the first one is Colleen Worth. And you may have seen her if you bought anything at the store. You've probably met Colleen. She has volunteered for years, more years than I've been involved with the foundation. Whenever we have a conference, she just takes care of it. We don't need to worry about what's happening with the store. And I told her this year, I said, Colleen, you're going to be in a coat room. It's a little bit tight. Can you run the store? And she said, Diane, I'm one of 10. I'm used to small spaces, you know, and so she has everything organized out there. I just wanted to give a shout out to Colleen, and she did promise me she was going to sell everything that's in there, so be sure you stop by and see what she has. So, and the other person I wanted to acknowledge is Patty O'Boyle. And she's a member of our team. Now she's a past board member. She is the aunt of Shannon O'Boyle, and I consider one of the gifts that Shannon brought to us as a foundation. She did registration, so if all of you registered, you may have heard directly from her. She's probably sitting out at the table. If you get a chance, go by and say hi and thank her, because honestly, I don't think it could have happened without her. She just kept track of everyone who was attending, and she's just a true gift to us, and I wanted to thank her for that. Yeah, thank you. Now I want to invite up our board president, Denise Croden, and acknowledge her as well. She's aunt to Jonathan Winrow. She's a member of our development committee, and she is volunteer extraordinaire and supporter of our foundation. And so, Denise, welcome.
don't know if you guys noticed or heard the music in the background. Little Prince, little Minnesota native, right? It also started like 1999. Were founded in 1998 in the fall. So, you know, we're can't believe it's already been 22 years. And I see Dr. Katie's wearing purple, so thanks for representing Prince. All right, so I get the honor of recognizing some people, and I'm just going to ask everybody if you can just hold your applause, and we'll give a big old Phelan-McDermid community family applause at the end. But I'm hoping our founders, will you please stand up? Got some founders here. Where are you? 1, 2, 3. And Sue. Where's Sue? All right, Sue's sleeping. All right, these are our founders. How about current board members? Can you guys please stand up? There's a total of 10 current board members. 3 of them are not here, but we have a few scattered about the room. All right. How about anybody who's served on the board in the past? Anybody who's been served on the board in the past? Got some over here, here. Yeah. Awesome, awesome. All right. How about if you are a MAC, SAC, or NCG member? Please stand up. I know when I heard these acronyms, I was kind of like, wait, what do all these things mean? So Diane's going to help me out here. MAC is Medical Advisory Committee. All right. SAC is Scientific Advisory Committee. You got to do the NCG.
Okay, Neuropsychiatric Consultation Group.
All right. Thank you, thank you. Okay, how about if you are a PMSF staff, aka our team staff? All right, ladies in the back. Yeah, ladies in the back.
Amanda.
Perfect. I'm going to just kind of, it's not in the script, Diane, I apologize, but
Expect no less.
I'm going to take this opportunity, honestly, just to put a little pause in here for our staff, our team, our conference people who really made this happen and put it together. Diane talks about, we've been working on it for a year. It's been a long year that they've been working on it with a lot of energy, a lot of effort, a lot of consultation, asking questions, making sure they were trying to make as many people happy as they could in terms of the location, the hotels, the food, the sessions, all of that kind of stuff. Somebody who's in the events industry, it's a lot of work, and the best part is that hopefully all you guys think it's easy peasy. That means they've done their job and they've successfully executed an event for you and your families. So honestly, let's not hold the applause. I just want to say to Diane, to Ronni, to the whole team, to the ladies, to Kelsey, to Shira, to Dr. Kate, thank you. Yes, you're welcome. Okay, so now let's look at 1998 and who were our first families who attended that conference in 1998. Stand on up. Look at that, look at that. All right, that was the first gathering of families. I think our first official conference was in 2002. Who was there? 2002. Stand up. All right. Look at that. That's awesome. And last but not least, who's here for the very, very first time? If this is their first conference, stand up. Good, right? All right, you Susan?
Yeah, and then we go into
All right.
Ronni.
That's amazing, amazing.
Thank you, Denise.
Yes, I appreciate you.
Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. And
Yeah.
if there's any anything that you can see or ask or questions, there's a lot of people around. Obviously, Diane pointed out the staff. Board members are here too, so feel free to reach out to us in the crowd, and however we can help. Thank you.
Thanks, Denise. Okay, now we have a video from Ronni. She's going to introduce our keynote speaker, and so we're ready for Ronni.
Hi, everyone. Before I introduce our keynote, I just want to say that I'm so sorry not to be there in person with all of you. Although my heart knows that I'm where I need to be, I'm just really sad. There were so many of you that I was looking forward to meeting in person after years of getting to know you and your families over social media. And I was so looking forward to reuniting with the families that I met in 2018, thanking our researchers, our scientific advisors and medical advisors, our industry partners. It's just, it's really hard not to be there. This event was done brilliantly by a team of staff and volunteers that created, I think, something that's going to be really special for you over the next 3 days. But none of it would have happened without Diane Linnehan, the Senior Director of Program Operations. And I hope you'll take a minute to walk up to her and thank her personally throughout the course of the conference, because, again, she organized every little detail. This is kind of like a three-ring circus with a lot of moving parts, and everybody worked really hard, but I think we would have been lost without her organization and consistent leadership putting the event together. So thank you, Diane. I wish I was there to give you a hug and tell you in person. Now I'd like to introduce her keynote. In 1984, I kind of fell into this career. I'd taken a job as a secretary at a soon-to-open day program for adults with different abilities. And on opening day, I went through the usual door into the cafeteria, and I was greeted by a room bursting with 88 adults. There was a cacophony of laughter and hoots and hollers and cries, and there was an array of adaptive equipment that I'd never seen anything even vaguely like that before. It was like I'd landed on another planet. I was pretty overwhelmed, and my 24-year-old self nearly turned around and walked out the door, but I had rent to pay. Sitting here now, talking to all of you, I guess you could kind of figure out the rest of my story. The thing that always struck me, though, over the many decades of working in this field, was how I opened this door into a world that had been coexisting with mine, but was absolutely invisible to me for 24 years of my life. And that's not to say that I'd never noticed somebody who was different before. Of course I did, but I carefully averted my eyes because I didn't want to make them feel uncomfortable. And I didn't really understand that what that really did was make people feel unseen. I don't coexist with this world any longer. I live here. I'm immersed in all the beauty and the magnificence that I missed by averting my eyes and rendering beauty invisible. When I saw Rick Guidotti's work and read his story, I was moved to tears. This person had also chosen to walk through the doors of the cafeteria and to immerse himself in unseen beauty. And then he smashed the walls of that cafeteria to the ground and showed the whole world what they were missing. Please welcome Rick. Thank you.
Thanks. Hi, everybody. No, hang on 1 second. Let's see if we get this going. Yeah. Ah, there we go.
There you are.
I think we're ready for a
Thank
slide.
you.
Hi, everybody. So good morning. This is my first conference. I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me. I'm Rick Guidotti. I'm the founder of Positive Exposure. Positive Exposure is a nonprofit organization that promotes a more inclusive world through photography, through film, and through educational programs. We're based in New York City, but we're a global organization, always celebrating the beauty and richness of human diversity, working with communities and individuals at risk of stigma and exclusion to celebrate once again the beauty and richness of human diversity. I started out my career as a fashion photographer in New York City. I also lived in Milan and Paris for several years. I got to work with some amazing models. Here's Claudia Schiffer from a Harper's Bazaar shoot, working with great models, great clients. This is from Elle magazine, from Marie Claire. I did a lot of work in Paris at the house of Yves Saint Laurent. This is a portrait of Mr. Saint Laurent that's in every boutique worldwide, and an image from one of our global campaigns. From French Elle magazine, New York Style magazine, French Elle once again, and of course here's like the amazing Cindy Crawford from a Revlon shoot. Really exciting working in the industry for so many years, living in Paris and New York and London and Milan, and it was exciting and thrilling, but it was also really frustrating because I was always told who was beautiful. I'm an artist. I never saw beauty just on covers of magazines. I see beauty absolutely everywhere, but I was always forced to work within the parameters of an industry of beauty that just explained this is what was beautiful. Nothing else on either side of that was beautiful. And that was completely difficult for me because I saw beauty everywhere. I was living in my studio in New York City after doing a casting for Elle magazine where I think I saw every model in New York that day. I was walking down Park Avenue and I spotted this gorgeous kid waiting for a bus. She had white hair, pale skin. She had this genetic condition called albinism. Albino was the common term. Stunning, yet never had I met a model that looked like this kid. Gorgeous kid. The bus came, she got on and she took off. And I knew I needed to find photographs of this gorgeous girl or friends of hers that shared the same genetic condition. Now, I studied at the School of Visual Arts in New York City. I studied film, photography, and art. So I never saw a medical textbook prior to that moment, but I thought that would be a great start to find images of this gorgeous kid or friends of hers. So I went to those, I closed in Barnes & Noble that was close to the studio, and I opened up the medical textbook to albinism, so excited to find images of this gorgeous kid. But instead, those were the images that I found. The image with the red eye was captioned the albino eye. This kid did not have bright red eyes. She had beautiful blue eyes. Then I saw lots of images in cancer clinics and then countless photographs of not just kids and adults with albinism, but many diagnoses and many conditions, usually featured the same way, up against the wall in doctor's offices with the black bar across their eyes, usually naked or in their underwear. Terrifying images. I very happily put the medical textbook back on the shelf, hoping to never see another medical textbook for the rest of my life. And I went on to the encyclopedias thinking, that's relevant. But instead, it was the family in the circus. And the more digging I did, the more negative representation that I started finding. Certainly from Hollywood, it was like the Princess Bride to Powder, who had albinism because his mother was struck by lightning when she was pregnant with him. To The Matrix Reloaded, there were these ghost-like characters. They'd come in, they'd wreak havoc, and then they would simply disappear. So the most recent was the Da Vinci Code. Evil stylists driving around Paris at night shooting at people. One of the first things I discovered in my research about albinism is that people with this genetic condition have an associated visual impairment. In fact, most people with albinism are considered legally blind. So certainly wouldn't be driving around Paris at night shooting at anybody and expect to hit any of their targets. This is terrible information that was out there. But I did see that there was a family advocacy organization called NOAA, the National Organization for Albinism and Hypopigmentation. I called them immediately, very excited to find them, called them instantly, said, hey, I'm a fashion photographer. Let's show the world the beauty of albinism. This is going to be amazing. They said, get lost. I'm a New Yorker. I don't give up quite so easily. But they made it very clear to me about their fear of exploitation. Every time there was a magazine article about a kid with albinism, it was always the story about a victim. It was always negative, always exploitative, always sensational. Like, well, I have to agree with you. I can't find one positive representation of albinism anywhere, and I've been searching. So let's do something strange here. Let's form a non-traditional partnership. Fashion photographer, genetic support group, and together we'll collaborate. And we'll create a photographic essay that celebrates the beauty of albinism. And they agreed, so Positive Exposure was born that day. I'm so excited to get started. In walks the first model. Her name is Christine, and she's stunning. She has long white hair, pale skin, beautiful. But she walks into my studio with her shoulders hunched, head down, no eye contact, one-word answers. This kid had zero self-esteem as a direct result of the bullying, the teasing, and the abuse she experienced every single day in the classroom environment because of her difference. And I'm thinking, how am I going to photograph this kid? But just the day before, I had photographed Cindy Crawford on the same set in my studio for another Revlon shoot. And I thought, out of respect for her, I'm going to photograph her like I would any supermodel. So the fan went on, the music went on, and I literally grabbed a mirror that was next to the set, and I held it up there, and I said, Christine, look at yourself. You're magnificent. And this kid who's standing there like this looked in the mirror and saw exactly what I saw and went from this to this, exploding literally with a smile that lit up New York City. Christine desperately needed to change the way she saw herself. Her community desperately needed to change the way that they saw her difference. So she created a philosophy that drives positive exposure more than 25 years later still. And that philosophy is change how you see how you change. Those first images were a cover story in Life magazine called Redefining Beauty. Got a lot of accolades for those, a 5-page spread, lots of accolades. Lots of people were aware of what was going on. They were excited about this new project of Redefining Beauty. And as I was traveling around the globe doing my fashion work, I would connect with local albinism support groups, family conferences, or we would create one if there wasn't one in existence. The incidence of albinism is about 1 in 20,000 worldwide. This is my friend Gladys Meir. She's a Kuna Indian in the San Blas region of Panama, where it's the highest incidence in the world. It's 1 in 125. Here's Meir from Fiji in the South Pacific, where at the turn of the 19th century, a tribe could not hold their territory. Let's say somebody with albinism in a powerful political position. So Meir comes from a community that celebrates her difference. My friend Lauren from Australia, great friends from the Siloe School for the Blind in Polokwane in northern province of South Africa, and twin boys from Tanzania. I received a lot of awards for the Life magazine piece, and one of the greatest honors I received was from the Genetic Alliance. The Genetic Alliance is a coalition of all the genetic support groups. They're based in DC, and they presented me with the Art of Reporting Award for the magazine piece. Very excited to receive that. As I was receiving the award, the president at the time said, looking at all these beautiful images of albinism around the globe, there's a universal message here. Would you ever be interested in working with some of our other advocacy organizations that we represent so they too can celebrate their difference? I said, what a great idea, I would love to, absolutely. She said, well, we have a conference coming up very soon for the Chromosome 18 Registry and Research Society. I'm very excited about that, but I didn't know what that meant. She said, well, you know, when you have an anomaly on your 18th chromosome. Well, remember, I'm a fashion photographer, so I've never heard the words anomaly and chromosome used in the same sentence prior to that moment. So I'm thinking, okay, I don't know what that is, so I'm going to go and find out. So I reluctantly went back to those medical textbooks to find out what a chromosome 18 anomaly looked like. And these were the images that I saw. I saw a lot of images of cleft palates and stillborns and kids with trachs and feeding tubes and mobility issues. And these were terrifying images. And I'm thinking albinism was so easy, but I committed and I went to that conference and I had these horrible images burned in my head thinking, how am I going to photograph these kids? And I walked into an auditorium where there was a clown on stage making balloon animals. As I walked in, these images burned in my head. I was instantly surrounded by kids screaming with laughter. There were kids with cleft palates and trachs and feeding tubes and mobility issues, but there were kids, and there were kids having fun. These are some of those great kids I met that very first day of that conference in San Antonio, Texas. Here's Sean, here's Remy, Ellington, the coolest kid that I know. Here's Pauline, and there's Daniel. They were like amazing kids and adults, and they were just people. It's like when I was doing my research on what a chromosome 18 anomaly looked like, if I would have seen one image of humanity, one image of someone smiling, one image of someone giggling or laughing, it would have changed everything. I came back to my studio after that conference in San Antonio, and I was approached by Francis Collins, who was then the director of the National Human Genome Research Institute. They just finished mapping the people's genome, and he presented me with a great idea to create a photographic exhibition that would launch at the People's Genome Celebration at the Museum of Natural History at the Smithsonian, and they would travel around the globe to other Smithsonian sites celebrating the people's genome. And his idea was to look at the diversity within albinism around the globe, to show diversity within that diagnosis, be amazing. And I told him about this extraordinary experience at the Chromosome 18 conference, where there really was a universal message here. It was about celebrating all difference, and would it be possible for us to include many genetic support groups and advocacy organizations? And of course, he very enthusiastically agreed. The first group that stepped up was the National Marfan Foundation. Now, Marfan syndrome is a connective tissue disorder. You grow very, very tall, you're at risk of an aortic dissection, pectus excavatum, scoliosis. These were the images that I saw in medical textbooks, understanding, and I understood the importance of this image, how it would present a connective tissue disorder to a healthcare provider in training. So I knew you needed information from these images, but as an artist, I needed to be able to give you the same information you needed, but actually add a key ingredient that's missing. And of course, that key ingredient that's missing is Billy. The key ingredient that's missing is, of course, humanity. These are some of my other great friends. This is Caleb. Caleb is living with a very common form of dwarfism called achondroplasia dwarfism. Caleb, but more interesting than that is that Caleb wants to be the president of the United States or an actor. So I told him all about Ronald Reagan, and now he's thrilled that he can do both, and chances are he will do both. So please keep your eyes and ears open for the extraordinary Caleb. My great friend Dr. Nadi. I met Dr. Nadi in Education City in Doha when she was a second-year med student. She told me the only thing she needs to be a successful physician is a stepladder. She got that stepladder, she became a doctor, she did her residency at Children's Hospital Dayton, Ohio, then on to do her postdoc at Baylor, and then Children's Hospital in Washington, D.C. She's living with a very rare form of skeletal dysplasia or dwarfism called acromesomelic dysplasia. Here's my great friend Maggie and Danielle living with Costello syndrome. I went to my very first Costello syndrome conference, never met any kids living with this condition, and turns out it was their very first conference as well. They never met anyone that shared the same diagnosis. And I was there when they met, and they became instant best friends, and they were bouncing off walls the whole conference, and throughout the conference, you heard them giggling and laughing, running down the halls, and every year I go back to that conference, and every year they're still there, and they're still best friends. The only thing that has changed over the years is they started a rock and roll band. They're very loud, but they're very amazing. Here's my great friend Jana living with 22q11.2 deletion, best giggle on the planet. My great friend Lucas and his dad living with Fragile X syndrome. Of course, Fragile X is the leading familial genetic marker for autism. Simone is representing the National Down Syndrome Foundation of Italy. And here's Ronan living with Prader-Willi syndrome. I just have to use this photograph in every presentation because Ronan reminds me of Frank Sinatra, and I love him. This is Curtis and Alex, and they're representing a whole new group of kids, a whole new movement, refusing to be victims of or suffering with. They're simply living with vitiligo. They're no longer they refuse to apologize for their vitiligo. They're not going to cover up. They're out there, just completely out there, exposing their vitiligo to the world to see and celebrating their own difference. Curtis is on a full ride to the University of Tennessee in a basketball scholarship, and Alex wants to be a stand-up comedian, and he's really hysterical. My great friends Kevin and Patty living with Duchenne muscular dystrophy. Parent Project Muscular Dystrophy is celebrating their 30th year, their 30th anniversary, and we're creating a book, so we've been collaborating for the last 2 years creating images from this book. My great friend Leia living with ALS, telling her ALS story. Of course, when we think of ALS, we don't think of young women living with ALS, so it's really important that we create space to tell these stories and share these narratives. Jasper living with Angelman syndrome. I do a lot of work with medical schools. I was at Harvard speaking to the med students, and they invited me to a conference that they host every year for kids living with spinal muscular atrophy. I didn't know much about SMA, so I went back to those medical textbooks before I attended the conference, and the first words that I saw was progressive. And I was like, okay, this is gonna be a rough one. So I knew these kids were really vulnerable and compromised health-wise. It's gonna be a rough conference. And I got there and I instantly started meeting these beautiful families and these beautiful kids and started photographing, and it was fantastic. And as I'm photographing, I'm looking at the photographs and each one was out of focus. And the reason they were out of focus is because these kids spent the whole time trying to run me over in their wheelchairs. This is after running over my left and my right foot. The farewell dinner, I was presenting the photographs back to the families. I got a standing ovation from the siblings who were so excited that finally somebody saw the rotten brother for the truly rotten brother that he is. And I had the great opportunity when I was to collaborate with Creighton University to create an exhibition, a community-based exhibition for individuals living with differences within the community in Omaha. And it was there that I met my very first great person living with Phelan-McDermid syndrome, and Hayden, and he's here, and it's so exciting. Hayden! So it's just so exciting to be here, and it's to be part of this, and to understand, there he is there. To be part of this, to understand and to see the importance and the impact of Hayden, not just on his community, but everybody that meets him, and to see those beautiful eyes of his and his gentleness and his spirit is just so extraordinary. And it was there when we were creating these images that I also realized why I'm so glad to be here is the importance of family. And the importance of family and community, and to be here for that. So I will be here for the next 2 days photographing. So if anybody needs a photograph, I am here. Families, everybody's involved, because of course this syndrome affects and impacts all of us. So again, Hayden, thank you for being such a star model. I appreciate this, it's so exciting. And I'm thrilled to be here, thanks guys. So this is my great friend Chloe. Chloe is nonverbal, but as you can see, that doesn't mean she's not going to be able to communicate exactly what she's thinking at any given time. You know exactly what she's thinking. Here's our beautiful Judy Heumann. I don't know if anyone's seen Crip Camp, but if you haven't, you should definitely see Crip Camp. It's on Netflix. You can get it on YouTube. It's an amazing film. It was nominated for an Academy Award. It won the Peabody Award. It won the Audience Choice Award at Sundance Film Festival. They're doing a Broadway musical right now in production, so she's going to come out in the fall, which is kind of amazing. And this is Judy. She's the star of the film. Judy passed away last year, but she's still with us, driving us all forward. Judy is an old school disability rights, disability justice advocate. Old school. She shut down a federal building protesting the fact that they weren't enforcing laws protecting people with disabilities. Old school disability rights activist. Here's, of course, Gaten Mitarazzo, who's a new school disability rights advocate. He wrote in his contract every season for Stranger Things that he had to mention cleidocranial dysplasia in at least 2 episodes every season. And that he used his social media platform of billions of followers to celebrate not only cleidocranial dysplasia, but all rare disease. Really modern day advocate. We started this project where, as we see, we have families and communities so important with our advocacy organizations. When you have a diagnosis, you have that community. You have your friends, your family, your network, your specialists. When you're undiagnosed, you're completely alone. So we've been traveling together with the Karolinska Institute, the Mayo Clinic, Johns Hopkins, traveling around the globe to collaborate with centers of excellence for people living without a diagnosis everywhere to create community, to make sure no one is as alone is alone without having community going through this undiagnosed journey. We just recently were in South Korea, but we've so far traveled to India, West Africa, to Mali, to the Netherlands, Australia, New Zealand, Sweden, and we're about to go to Colombia, Brazil, and Mexico. It's my great friend Kaylin, living with Sturge-Weber syndrome. As you see, Kaylin has a birthmark bilaterally across her face, so she has it internally, so she has a seizure disorder associated with the condition, and glaucoma, so she's blind in her left eye. But she came to the studio to be photographed, and of course she brought outfit changes, and we had so much fun. We made 1 million photographs that day. It was so much fun. But at the end of the shoot, her mom calls me. She said, Kaylin never talks to me about school. Because she knows that if I hear kids are teasing her, I'm going to come in the next day swinging a baseball bat. It only makes things worse for her, so she says nothing. But on her way home from your studio, she said, Mom, kids tell me every single day that I'm ugly. They tell me every single day that I'm a freak and that I'm a monster, and I believe them. until today. And then she mobilized, she got me to go to her school and present positive exposure to 400 students. And she was on stage with me in her little Madonna-esque headphones running around screaming, "What is normal?" So this gorgeous kid created a formula that everything that we create at Positive Exposure must follow. And that formula is self-acceptance equals self-esteem equals self-advocacy. To create the programs that we need to put, the tools that we need to place in the hands of our ambassadors around the globe so that they can celebrate their own beauty and richness of human diversity. One of those projects that we've created following that formula is our Positive Exposure Pearls project, which is an online blog platform creating opportunities for individuals, our ambassadors, and their families to blog and talk about life from their unique perspective. It's individuals living with a variety of diseases, but it's also really important that we've created space for parents, siblings, families, and community to also talk about life from their unique perspective. This is Byron.
My name is Byron. I live in the DC area. I'm 14. When I was 10 months old, I had a left hemispherectomy. I had the left half of my brain removed because I have something called Sturge-Weber syndrome. I wear a brace on my right leg and right arm. I only see out of the right side of each eye, so sometimes it's harder for me to see things on the right side. So playing sports can be frustrating because I might not see a ball coming. I didn't see that coming.
So it creates an opportunity for our ambassadors to use their personalities, their sense of humors, to break down those segregating walls, not only in the classroom, and in the workplace, but in broader public arenas as well. The Pearls program is on our website under programs, and it's easy to use, and we have a lot of different ambassadors up there, and it looks very interactive, but we do all the posting at Positive Exposure for our ambassadors, so it's a very safe environment as well. I go to a lot of medical schools. In fact, we're probably in more than half the medical schools in the country, working with the other half this year. And I go to medical schools not because I want to teach the science behind these genetic conditions, but actually because I can pronounce arthrogryposis multiplex congenita. I know what it means, and I can spell it, but not because I studied it in a medical textbook or in a classroom. I went to a family conference, and I met PJ. Now, PJ's living the type of arthrogryposis that he has, he can't use his hands. So his family talk about his eating technique they called his Viking dive. Because he'll go into his plate of mashed potatoes, and then he comes up. Then he goes into his plate of peas, and then he comes up. And then he chases his sisters around the table with a case full of mashed potatoes and peas. You will never forget arthrogryposis multiplex congenita, because you'll never forget PJ. It was with that and understanding that idea that wherever I am, when I go to these family conferences, I try to connect with our local medical schools that I collaborate with. And I bring med students with me to the family conferences, and I shove them in daycare and lock the door on them, and I leave them in there. And I check back on them at the end of the day, and they always have like poop on their shoulder, like gum in their hair, but they're going to be better healthcare providers because they met these kids not in crisis. They met these kids not in the clinical environment. They met these kids and adults just being who they are. So that's prompted us to create a connection and to help create opportunities for narratives and for individuals to talk about their own lives. So we created a series of films called Frame. Frame is Faces Redefining the Art of Medical Education. Very brief films presenting all the basic hallmark characteristics of a certain diagnosis or topic, but as presented by somebody living that experience themselves and their families. So placing front row and center in medical training humanity, helping healthcare providers in training understand early in their training that it's never what you're training, but of course always who you're training. Here's a sample.
Hey, my name is Noah, and I'd like to introduce you to some of my friends. We all have a genetic condition called albinism. You may have seen us in movies or heard that we're all evil or have magic powers or have red eyes. We're like any other group of people. We're all different, we're all unique, and you will see here the diversity among us.
Albinism affects people across the world from all ethnicities, but it's not only in humans, it affects animals too, and all kinds of them as well.
There are two main types of albinism, ocular cutaneous and ocular albinism. Ocular cutaneous affects the eyes, the skin, and the hair, and ocular affects just the eyes.
Today's my birthday.
My name's Alex.
And I'm Ezra.
And this is Cassie and Penelope.
Hello. Hello.
And Cassie was born with a genetic syndrome called Marfan syndrome.
We wanted to show you a feature Cassie was born with. As you can see, Cassie's chest sinks inward toward the middle. This is called pectus excavatum. But Penelope, what is it that you and Cassie call it?
Target. Target.
Why do we call it a target, Kat?
Yeah, she used to laugh all the time when I put water in it.
Why would you put water in there?
Because that's what made her that. Can you take a picture of it?
Oh yeah, I'm doing it right now. I'm making a movie of it.
Chromosomes are the instructions that tell our bodies how to grow and develop. Most people have 2 copies of each chromosome for a total of 46 chromosomes. Some people have 47 chromosomes. Most people who have Down syndrome have 3 copies of chromosome 21, also known as trisomy 21. This is caused by a sporadic event known as non-disjunction, which usually occurs prior to conception.
Hi,
I'm Mitch.
I'm 15 years old. It's been a great role for me. It's basically like an extra chromosome, and that chromosome blends in the awesomeness and blends in all of the loyalty, and I can go on and on about it.
And go on and on about it, and Max does go on and on about it as often as he can, as much as he can. An incredible advocate for the National Down Syndrome Foundation and for all differences. Each film is accompanied, we're entering the films in film festivals now, which is really exciting. We have about 8 of them in 2024 right now. We're really excited to see what happens there. Each film is accompanied by a photographic gallery, so you can see diversity within that diagnosis and really get a sense of that community. But then there's also links that we also place for the advocacy organization, making those connections, but then also for other websites that you need more updated information that you can possibly glean from a 12-minute film. The films are fairly brief. As you saw in the beginning of this, we just completed this series on diversity. This is a film on the lack of representation on black and brown skin and dermatology training. We did a film on diversity at crossroads of aging and disability. Again, the film festivals. We stepped away from the advocacy, from the genetics community for a while too. We started working with, this is a film we created with Wounded Warriors and Uniformed Services University, and looking at amputation, limb salvage, and prosthetic usage. Starting a new program right now with NICUs around the country, where we're creating space for individuals that spend time in the NICU to really share their stories unconditionally, to share their stories, negative, positive stories, but really make sure that their stories are heard and seen, and that there's a space for them to share those stories. But we're also adding space on these sites to really create opportunities for the healthcare providers and the staff, from the neonatologists all the way down to the men and women that are scrubbing those floors to keeping those babies living in a germ-free environment. Why? What are those commitments? But so again, creating space for lots of conversation around that experience. Since I started Positive Exposure almost 30 years ago, it's always been a goal to replace those demoralizing, dehumanizing, grim images currently used in medical textbooks. We're creating opportunities, so we're about to launch a new program that's been beta tested for the last year. We're about to launch it in the next couple of weeks. I'm really excited about it. And it's creating an alternative to those medical textbooks, using positive exposure images of life-affirming images. And we're calling this new program Textbook Beauty, creating opportunities to have these images used by healthcare providers in training and faculty life-affirming images to stay away from those scary medical textbook images that are dehumanizing and demoralizing. Here's, of course, Amir living with Angelman syndrome, beautiful Lily with chromosome 4p-. Here's Kaylin again, it's extraordinary. Kaylin representing Sturge-Weber syndrome. And of course, I just came from the Smith-McGinnis Syndrome Conference in Dallas, and this is Deirdre with Smith-McGinnis. Our exhibitions at Positive Exposure are very public. This is an exhibition on Hunter syndrome that we did and traveled around the globe. We did a lot of pre-production work in Germany, in Russia, in Poland. So we launched the exhibition in Grand Central Station, New York City, but then took it over to the streets of Warsaw, the Berlin train station, and several malls in Russia. Our very first billboard commemorating an exhibition in Tel Aviv, UNESCO in Paris, Rochester Art Museum and Mayo Clinic, that's my great friend Berlines, representing Klippel-Trenaunay syndrome. Currently started with Brown University, a collaboration on autism and co-occurring mental health challenges. This is an exhibition that was at Brown Medical School, then went on from there to the Museum of Work and Culture, and then we're now traveling throughout Canada looking at Indigenous communities and talking about because often left out of those conversations are the Indigenous communities, so we're creating space for Indigenous communities throughout Canada to talk about autism and co-occurring mental health challenges. This is an exhibition at Children's Hospital at Toledo, Ohio. We do a lot of community-based children's exhibitions. An exhibition on with 65 individuals living with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Each of the individuals became docents for the exhibition at a mall in Colorado Springs. The exhibition was meant to be up for 6 weeks and wound up being there for almost 3 years. And they estimated over 2 million individuals went through the gallery. We started collaborating with other photographers, of course, as well to keep exhibitions alive and growing. Did the exact same thing in Australia and the Faroe Islands. Here's George Eastman Museum. Here's an exhibition that we created we went to 27 different countries on psoriasis and chronic spontaneous urticaria. Again, this is the launch in Bangkok. Our first corporate headquarters exhibition that's traveling throughout corporate headquarters in Europe. That's a fully digitized exhibition. This is the launch at a BNP Bank in Ghent. We have a gallery in New York City in East Harlem. You're all invited to come hang out anytime. I'll give you keys. The exhibition is real. It's a multimedia gallery and performance space in East Harlem on Museum Mile. We have artists in residence programs, rotating exhibitions. We have it's a performance space as well, so lots of performance. Our last exhibition was an exhibition for med students from Mount Sinai. It was first-year med students in Mount Sinai, illustrating their journey to medical school through their art, through photography, through painting, through music, and through poetry. It was an extraordinary exhibition. During the pandemic, we couldn't be indoors, so in our courtyard, we put in a 4-story mural of the word love in over 100 languages, launching an international campaign to fill the world with love. That's our messaging is change how you see how you change. I travel around the globe constantly working and creating opportunities so we work with so many individuals and communities celebrating difference. And as it turns out, no matter where we are, no matter which country I'm in, which culture we're working in, which continent we're on, which language we're speaking, it turns out we all absolutely share the exact same need. And it's a simple need, and these needs are just the need to be seen, a need to be heard, a need to be loved, and a need to belong. We're creating I go to medical schools, I go to a lot of schools around the country. I was actually recently, I go to a lot of mainstream schools as well. I'm in schools for the blind. Again, just bringing this message. I was at a school for the blind several years ago in South Africa. I was the Sibanile School for the Blind. There we were introducing accessible art. How you can, if you have a visual impairment or blind, how can you enjoy art. What does accessible art look like? So we did art and we did image descriptions with photography, became workshops on creative ways to describe certain things. It was really amazing. And in the middle of all that, I just said, I'm a fashion photographer. This is how I celebrate difference through photography. What can you do? One kid raised his hand immediately, said he wanted to be a writer. So of course he immediately became a Pearl ambassador. Another young woman raised her hand, said she wanted to be a nurse or a traditional healer. So of course it was like extraordinary to see this kind of excitement going on and kind of carrying the torch to celebrate difference. Fantastic. Another kid raised his hand, said he wanted to be a cop. I'm like, I don't know, guns, police, I don't know, it's probably blind, probably not a great idea. He's like, no, I could be a security guard. He was amazing. But in the middle of that, this young lady raises her hand and she said that they have a school choir and they write their own music. Now I know that from my own experience in South Africa, and I've been there many times working with various organizations there, that school choirs are really important. It's how a school gets on the map. It's how a school recruits a new teacher, or how they pay for a computer lab. It's so really important. I was like, well, are you guys any good? Have you competed? And she said, no, we can't compete because we're disabled. I'm like, well, I don't know if that's really a rule, but let me hear you sing. So they performed for me right there in the schoolyard, and they were incredible, amazing. And I was like, that's incredible. So I went into the principal's office afterwards, and I picked up the local newspaper. And sure enough, on the back of that local newspaper was a listing of at least 10 different school choir competitions. So we entered them in all 10 of them. Back in my studio about 6 months later, I got a call from the principal who's so excited that he can't believe that they've been invited to be the guest choir, not to compete, but to be the guest choir at the national competition at the National Auditorium in Johannesburg. I'm like, that's fantastic news. He said, no, it's terrible because they've never performed in front of anyone else but you. There's going to be 10,000 people in the audience, and they won't go unless you come back and go with them. Now, we never have any money at Positive, so everything goes right back into our programs. But I thought this was important, so we reached out to a couple of our big donors, and sure enough, they said go. So before I end, I'd like to introduce to you, just present to you the first time I heard these gorgeous kids sing at the Sibanile School for the Blind. And then I added a little bit to that, just a couple of seconds of them, their final dress rehearsal and our second visit where we're in the national, in the parking lot of the National Auditorium, getting ready to go in and sing our one song. And you'll see we were terrified. So this is the Sibanile School for the Blind. Real nervous.
sami ayekho njengawe waze wangixolela konke wayiwenza kuwe.
Wonderful, thank you. These kids are extraordinary. You can clap, it's okay. They're amazing. They love the applause, I can assure you. One of the exciting things about this is that these gorgeous kids who were told that they couldn't compete actually competed the following year and won the national competition. So all of us are full of these beautiful surprises and all this beauty, and we just need to create the right space to shine that light on them to celebrate the beauty and richness of human diversity, and we can do this together. Thank you so much for your time. I look forward to meeting you all. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Yay! Thanks. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, Rick. That was inspiring, and I think a message that we can all really appreciate. So I just want to give a quick update that we will get started in 7 minutes with the next session, so don't go too far. Thank you.